it just seemed to make so much sense. And we just really felt like it was so important to bring manufacturing back here.
Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go. Welcome back to this week's episode of Leaders of the West. As always, I am thrilled to have you guys here. I am thrilled to have our guest here. And this is a unique conversation. I typically, when it comes to bringing guests on the show, they're either friends of mine or we've worked with them in business with Of the West, or I've worked with them personally. But this is the first time that Kristin and I have ever met. But this is definitely not the first time that she has been on my radar. And I know, especially for the women in the audience today, it's safe to say the same for you guys. So Kristin Kiseljack, she is the founder and creator of Ida Mae Home, which is the most incredible quilted items. So quilted jackets that we are seeing at all of our favorite boutiques. There are bags. There are like literally anything and everything quilted, which is totally having its moment. But Kristin has done such an incredible job of really making that very Western and Southern and Texan. And so I am so thrilled to get to sit down with you today. So Kristin, let's start from the beginning. Who are you? Where are you from? Like, what is your story?
Yeah, of course. So I am Kristin Kiseljack, the owner of Ida Mae Home. And I actually was born and raised in Fort Worth and moved away for a bit. I lived in London, Minneapolis, Jacksonville, Florida. So I kind of lived everywhere. And my career at the time was a buyer. So I was a buyer for Marshall Field's, Dayton Hudson's, for Steinmart back in the day when they were around. And I was always on that side of things in retail. And I'd worked with this couple who sold me quilts. And I worked with them for years and years. I was always so impressed with their business, with their style and everything. And they were based in Dallas. And so they started talking to me when I was a buyer at Steinmart about buying their company. And we talked for probably 3 years because I said, we're really happy here. I love my job. But the fact that it was back in Texas, and it just seemed like it was meant to be. And so again, after, several years and just making sure it was viable because, we had 2 young kids and like I said, a pretty full life. And so to pick up and move, even though it's home for me, was, a little daunting. And so, we talked, look at the financials, talked through the process. And then after a lot of back and forth, we decided to go for it and move back to Texas, which is where everything started. And so it started with an import business is what, I bought initially, which was called Design Source. And that was purely designing and working with customers like Macy's and Ross and all those guys to design and then import quilts. And so everything was imported from India or China. So we did that, close to, I guess, about 7, 8 years. And the president of the company, her name's Rashanda, she's my best friend. And she started with me on day one. And we had talked for years about the fact that on these trips to China and India, if they can do this here, why can't we do this at home? It just seemed to make so much sense. And we just really felt like it was so important to bring manufacturing back here. And again, for years, we really didn't have an opportunity to just because we were so busy and working all the import and traveling. And then I'll tell you what, when COVID hit in 2020, everything shut down. Shipments shut down, everything. So we all experienced it. It was a very kind of a scary time because accounts stopped paying. No one knew what was going to happen or when things were going to open up. But for me, it gave me a really good time to say, okay, this is a great time to work on a business plan. This is a great time to work on a process. And so Rashanda and I sat there and came up with what we would need to shift manufacturing to Texas because we both said the shutdown is rough and container pricing, it quadrupled overnight. And again, it was just, there's so many things out of our control when you look at an import business that we said, if we can shift that here, that would just make so much sense. And we can guarantee our quality and we can create jobs. And it just all felt so good. So again, we spent a good 6 months, I think, working on a business plan and coming up with that and what we would need. And we had a wonderful bank who supported us and got it off the ground. And so we started Ida Mae Home in 2020 in honor of my grandmother, my Nana. And she was Ida Mae Grant, and she grew up outside of Waco on a little farm. And she was a quilter. So that was a big deal to me, just the heritage and that whole piece of it, because she passed stacks of quilts to us, which I still treasure. And so again, it was kind of that nostalgia and a little bit of the heritage that we were honoring by starting it as Ida Mae Home. And again, the fact that it's made in Texas, it just all fit.
Oh, I love that. And I laughed on the inside when you talked about just the volatility when it comes to the import business. And the only thing that I know about imports is for a number of years, I worked for the Boutique Hub. And one of the projects that I really worked on was bringing their Boutique Boss Planner to life. And so that is a product that is developed here in the US, but then we send it to China to be printed. I think I worked on that project for 5 years. And every single year, there was some kind of issue. Like I remember being in the eye doctor one time, and he's a really chatty guy. And he's like, have you watched these, like this flash flooding in China? And I was like, no, I haven't. I don't know anything about the flash flooding in China. And then I was like, wait a minute. Those planners are in China. And then I got on the map, and sure enough, this area that was flash flooding was the exact same place where this print factory was, which is where these planners were. And there was that. And then there was COVID, and there was things getting stuck in customs. And at one time, it had to go around the world and come up through the Nile. And there was a block, the ships had wrecked there. And literally every single time, it's honestly like you can't make this crap up. There is no way this is real life, but it totally is. So I have a ton of respect for people who deal with just that side of business, because it is something that for many people in agriculture or Western industries, maybe we're a little bit more removed from. I don't have to worry about that when it comes to my cows, right? They are all right here, and I don't need to be shipping them on a boat across the ocean, although that is done with animals. But you get what I'm saying? So what are some things that you've learned with that? Because one of the things that I learned was just the need to really look at the bigger picture and know that I cannot change something being stuck in customs for a 6-week time period. Even though it's going to impact my business, there's nothing that I can do about it. So what is it that I can do about all these other things to make that a little bit easier? But I'd love to hear that from your perspective.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. When you were saying all those, same thing. I was just thinking, oh my gosh, it just brings it all back. But container prices, cotton prices going up. Yeah, the floods. We even had drones, pirate drones, and then Panama Canal. I mean, it was always something. And you're always thinking, is this for real? Or is this because you're late and you're telling me, my container fell off the ship or whatever?
Yeah, it's like the whole, the dog ate your homework situation. Actually,
right.
I can't get these to you because there's a boat trapped in the knot. Yeah.
Yeah. And now we've got black mold, so we definitely can't get it to you at all. I mean, it was just always something. And I think for me, that was my thought. We would travel over there. We had someone that worked for us in China on the ground that would, do the inspections and all. So you control the process as much as possible. But again, at the end of the day, it's really out of your hands. And, we would have product that would ship and be on the floor. And then it would be a surprise of, oh, this is the wrong color, or, this little thing came in, it's bleeding. I mean, we had a big thing with Bucky's blankets where we'd shipped so many, and we started getting, calls from the stores that the ribbon was rubbing off on the blanket. And it's just so much of it's out of your hands. And so again, it was really that feeling of how can we reformat this so we can control, again, the quality for us is so important because we really put our customer first. And it just doesn't feel good to be shipping something that you're not really sure, is this going to meet our standards? Is this going to meet our quality? Or are we going to hit the date? Like I said, and all the cost volatility as well. And so building that here has been wonderful. There are a few things outside of our control. We still, our cotton fill vendor is in Fort Worth. So that's wonderful because we can just run over there and pick up our fill each week. And so again, we try to control as many of our raw materials as possible. But like zipper pulls, for instance, zipper pulls are still manufactured overseas, and we're having really long lead times on those. So there's always something that you come up that you don't anticipate. But I will say my team is amazing. We've learned to just kind of roll with it and adjust and pitch hit. And it's worked really well for us.
So going back to the beginning of your career when you were a buyer and you mentioned that you lived in London and I think you said Minnesota and Florida as well. Did you live in those locations based on your buyer career, or were there other elements of your family that kind of pulled you in those different directions?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, London, I actually went to Baylor and studied accounting. And I remember I was horrible at it. I mean, just horrible and not great at math. And my dad always said, if you can get a degree in accounting, you can do anything. And he said, it's a hard degree, it's a meaty degree. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try. I don't know how I graduated with that degree, but I did. And I decided to move to London right when I graduated because I'd traveled to London with my family, loved it so much. And I always just felt like, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it right when I graduate before I have responsibilities or anything. And so I graduated and then I got on a plane with my passport and a working visa and my resume. And that was, that was it. And I walked into Harrods because I'd always loved Harrods. I loved the department store feel and everything. And they hired me on the spot. And so it was such a great experience. I was there for about a year and worked and that's how I developed a love for buying and retail and merchandising. I thought, I don't want to do accounting. I want to do this because it was just so cool. And so then when I moved back, I got a job with Dayton Hudson Marshall Fields at the time, which was in Minneapolis. So moved to Minneapolis for the job. And then I was with them for a good 10 years. And then I had the job opportunity at Stein Martin, Florida. So each one of those I moved for my career. But the first one was strategic with London. I just wanted to have fun and travel.
I love that. Well, I tell you what, I have an accounting minor and I can really relate to that just because at the time when I got that, that was kind of when we had that big recession. And so anybody with a finance degree of some kind, like you were a hot commodity back then. If anybody could get a job right out of college, right? And so I was like, well, I better have a little bit of accounting or finance, whatever that looks like. And yeah, I don't necessarily know that I ever really see myself as an accountant. Although boy, when I have to pay my accountant, I sure think, man, he's got the good business idea over here. But let's talk a little bit about that perspective of being a buyer, because obviously with Ida Mae Home, you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, you do both retail and then you wholesale as well. And so I'm sure that your experience in being a buyer for so many years has really helped you stay aware of that business model and what buyers are really trying to be mindful of, because you're seeing the retail world from two very different perspectives.
Yeah, great point. I feel like being a buyer, it makes you very aware of what it's like to be a buyer. And there are a lot of challenges. There's just a lot of demands and challenges, and the buyers are responsible for every facet from making sure it's in the right store, even though that's really not their job, to the margins, to things selling, to the right assortment. And so I'm really conscious of that. And I think that's one of the things that's helped me in the wholesale in particular, is having a real sensitivity to their perspective and working really hard to make sure we're giving them the best cost. I work very, very hard at that we're hitting those deliveries, that the quality is right. Because again, if we have those three things, that's what you need. But if one of those things goes off the rails, the whole order is jeopardized. And the other thing that I really work hard on is relationships. And relationships with buyers are so important, and they are with our customers as well. You know, I always tell my team, just be honest, be upfront, be direct, because it's going to come out. My dad always says, shine the light on it. And that's what I always think is, even if it's, not the best outcome, even if the order is going to be late, it's so important to communicate ahead of time and be honest. And you can work through anything, or, they might have to cancel an order, but you save your relationship if you're upfront. So I'd say that's a biggie for me too, is I appreciated reps and vendors that were direct with me. And I still talk to them. I still am friends with people that I worked with 20 years ago. And I think that's a big piece of it, is that focus on the relationship.
I think too, because one of the things that I see from my perspective with Of the West is we do actually get a number of jobs for buyer roles. And I think a lot of people who see that and think, oh, I want to apply for that, they think it's basically like spending somebody else's money and you're shopping and filling your own closet. And that is not how it works at all, because there is so much riding on you are the person. Yes, of course, you're buying pretty inventory, but also is the science and the data backed by like, this is the type of product that we know our customers are buying? Or is it something that it might be really cute and really pretty, but we statistically know it's just going to sit on the shelf and basically the retail version of rot there, versus being very mindful. And also you're having to buy seasons ahead, which is very, very challenging. I think that there's just a lot behind that science of being a buyer that is maybe not necessarily seen from the outside looking in. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that. Again, just knowing your perspective and being somebody who you've done it, but now you also get to sit with buyers and see it from the side of the brand.
Right. Yeah. Buyers, again, they have a lot of responsibility. They're driving margin, they're driving sales, responsible for markdowns, what's not working. And so I just feel like the buyers are the ones that are kind of the point person and almost like the center of the wheel in a business. So it's a big responsibility. And you're absolutely right. The analysis, I mean, I am analysis paralysis. Maybe that's the one accounting thing I took off was looking at the numbers and sell-throughs and all those good things. Because yeah, it's a really good mix, I always say, of creative brain and analytical brain being a buyer. And you really do have to have both because you can buy things that you like personally all day, but they might not resonate with your customer. And the customer, if it's a different demographic, you really have to get in their head and think, okay, what exactly are we going for here? Like we've got a lot of coastal customers and we're Western. I live on a farm, but I have to get in that coastal mentality of, okay, what's the color palette that's trending right now? And really in and looking at the trends and coastal living and all those wonderful resources to kind of see what they would like. So there's definitely, you're absolutely right. There's a lot to it. It sounds glamorous, right? Everyone's always like, oh, you're a buyer and you get to pick out pretty things and you get to travel. And it's like, yeah, and the travel gets a little, much too, right?
Well, and I often think about it because I do have the opportunity to typically I'll go to market in Dallas during the Western market. So January and August. And I think too, something else that's really forgotten is, okay, it's cold. Granted, it's not cold in Dallas in January, but it's typically like it's a cold month. And here you are buying for August, September. You're looking at like, okay, what would we put together in a back to school collection when you are completely out of that frame of mind? It's not like you're buying for Valentine's Day in the middle of January, which is very easy to kind of like mentally wrap your head around. You're working that much further in advance, which I want to kind of transition to that because I've always respected that the creativity that it takes to be somebody on your end who is the brand developer, if you will. How difficult is it to be working and designing so many seasons ahead? How are you physically living in the here and now, but also really forecasting like what are girls going to think is cool next year? Like now when we're listening or we're recording this in April, what season are you guys currently designing for?
Well, that's a really good question, a really good point, because when we were doing imports, it would have been next spring. So it would have been 2027. And some accounts we would be working third quarter 2027. So you're talking, you really do have to have a crystal ball. You have to use your data, but then you have to think, well, what are the upcoming colors and everything else? With our direct business and with our wholesale business, it's been so nice because of the fact that we design here in Fort Worth, we print, we quilt, we make everything from start to finish right here in Fort Worth. So we can make samples in a day. And it's been awesome. I always say that's kind of our superpower is how quickly we can move and how quickly we can pivot. And so it gives me a lot of flexibility. Like right now we're working on June market and it's April 10th. So that's 2 months out. And I can say, well, let's try a purple boot just to see. And we can just print one and see. And then if that works, great. If it doesn't, then we pivot to something else. But it's kind of a blessing and a curse because I tend to overdevelop because I love it all. It's like my children, where I'm like, I love this pattern. I love this pattern. Like I said, that's probably been one of the biggest advantages that we have is being able to develop closely. And with that, it's being able to, again, pivot quickly. So if something is working, we can chase it really quickly instead of, well, we've got to wait 6 months for the next cycle from import business to get here and load and make it to us. And also with import, the other thing is you really have to be pretty confident in what you're doing because each piece, you might have to order 1,500 pieces. And again, when we're doing it here, you can make one and just see the response before you invest in that style. So that's been great. We love that.
And again, going back to that whole concept of then you don't have to wait for it to sit on the boat and sit in customs. Like there is no customs when it comes to your Fort Worth development center and factory, right? I love that. So let's talk a little bit about that because when it came to the business that you bought and created and with Ida Mae Home, you could have just kept selling quilts. So why did you move into what I would consider to be like a reimagined product? Are you somebody who you do have a little bit of a crystal ball and you could see like, okay, quilted jackets and things like that are really going to be a big seller in the future? Or what was it that really drew you to that?
Well, again, great question. Couple of things. That was seeing trends in the marketplace, mostly from Round Top. Because Round Top, I don't know if you've been to that.
I haven't, but it's on my bucket list.
It needs to be. We'll go. It's so much fun. It's so inspiring. You get just really, I mean, just such a great range of different styles and looks. And I love to see what everyone's wearing there. That's one of my favorite things is, I mean, the outfits that people pull together are just so cool. And I love that. And so that was one of the biggest things for me was we were at Round Top and we were seeing quilted jackets and we were manufacturing the quilts. And I'll tell you what, when we would cut the quilt, there would be waste from the quilt. There always is. You know, you cut the quilt in the shams. So we just had stacks of fabric accumulating and no one wanted to throw it away because it was perfectly good fabric. And so after going to Round Top and seeing that, you know, I said, why don't we try to make a jacket? And everyone was like, you sure? And but they have been so, my team, they're amazing. And so they really do just try anything. And so we worked on a pattern and we worked with the pattern maker. We went through multiple different styles of jackets and came up with our first quilted jacket and then took those to market and then they blew out. I mean, blew out. We laugh about our first booth because it was a sea of just white jackets with different colored boots on them, but they sold. And so from there, I started seeing the quilted bags. And I was thinking those are going to make a resurgence. They have to, because with the quilted jackets and quilts, you know, everyone's looking, I think, to kind of go back again to their roots in the past and that nostalgia. We started making the bags. And again, we started with one style. It blew out. So then we've developed into 10. And that's really where it started.
So you obviously mentioned Round Top as a place that really sparks your creativity. What are some other ways, places, things that you are able to take that creativity from and get inspiration from?
I love to travel. I think, you know, just traveling and seeing how everyone is dressed or what they're carrying or different shops and boutiques. I love going into shops and boutiques and just kind of seeing the vibe and what they're doing. I'm a huge Pinterest nerd. I love Pinterest and I'm on there all the time. I think that's a big one for me. And movies and all of those sources, as well as magazines. So I think it's just kind of looking everywhere. The Fort Worth Rodeo is a great place to get inspiration. I mean, the ladies of the rodeo bring it. It's just awesome to see how they pull together outfits. NFR is another great source in seeing just what everyone's wearing. Love that. So I think it's just being kind of eyes open and really pulling pieces from everywhere as we go.
So of all of the products that you have, and again, we've talked about there are quilted jackets, there are vests, there is more of like a longer duster style vest, there are travel products, bags. What are some of your favorites? And I know that's like picking a favorite child. It's impossible. But if you were going to leave your house with 3 Ida Mae Home products, what would they be? Or what are some best sellers in case anybody doesn't have Ida Mae Home? Or maybe they do and they're looking for, okay, what should be the next thing that I add into my arsenal?
Well, I would start with the snap jacket. Again, we've got so many different patterns, you know, just depending on your vibe and what you like. The snap jacket is a really easy fit because it's kind of like a barn jacket. So you can wear it with a tank top or a t-shirt, or you can put it with a sweater. I love that jacket. And then I would say I would flip to a boot bag. Our boot bags are flying. Everyone is buying these. I developed them because of the fact that my daughter rides and she would just throw her boots in her bag. And, you know, they've got the red dirt on them and the arena. And I was like, do you maybe want to put those in a shopping bag or something? And she's like, no, I'm good. And so we started making those boot bags. And I got to tell you, it's been a game changer. You know, it's really fun to travel with. And, you know, she's given them to her friends who she rides with. So the boot bag would be number 2. And then our duffel bag would be number 3. Because again, for a weekend trip or, you know, anything, it holds so much. And I love that bag. I've got like 5 because I love them.
Okay, so the duffel bag, the boot bag, and then the snap jacket. I feel like that is it doesn't matter who you are. those are things that all fit. Again, like you, maybe it's your gym bag, maybe it's your weekender bag. We all have boots. One thing that we were talking about off air, I'm excited about, and this is very fitting considering this is happening, kicking off this weekend, is you are launching a collection with Tony Llama or something to deal with Mother's Day. Give us all the details.
Yeah, we're so excited. We're doing a collab with Tony Llama. And of course, they're based here in Fort Worth. So it made sense. It was a great synergy. They're wonderful people. And we are doing a collection for them by Ida Mae Home. It's a beautiful print that's proprietary to Tony Llama and it fits their brand. And we're going to do bags, a boot bag, and then a quilt. So for bedding. And then we're doing some apparel. We're doing a vest and a jacket. And like you said, that'll launch for Mother's Day. And we couldn't be more excited. They're great folks. And we just think the brand fits, with us and our story. So we're really excited.
I love that. So then will people be able to buy that on TonyLlama.com then?
Yes, as well as our website.
As well as Ida Mae. Okay, perfect.
Yep. So both. And then we'll feature it at the show in August in Dallas as well for wholesale.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so if you are somebody who's listening to this and you are headed to market in August, that'll be perfect. Okay, I want to make sure that we get to our rapid fire round. Question number 1, what do you hope people remember most about you?
I think that for me, the biggest thing is to never give up. And the fact that it's kind of the harder you work, the how people say, the more successful or whatever. But I think it's that we've had to really grind to get where we are as a team. And so again, there are so many times when it would be so much easier just to say, I'm just going to go and do this over here or whatever. But I'd say for me, if people remember, never giving up, just keep on pursuing your dreams. I think that would be huge for me.
Okay. What is a non-negotiable?
Honesty. I just had a conversation with my 18-year-old son. That's why that's on my head, but definitely honesty.
If you were a professional athlete, what would your walk-up song be?
My hype song?
Yes.
I would say, I might steal my daughter's here, which is Man Eater by Nelly Furtado. That's such a good hype song. So I'd say that one.
Oh, that is a great hype song.
Yeah.
Yes. Everybody look at me.
Yeah.
Me. Yes, I love it. I'm with you. Okay, what's the smartest thing someone's ever told you?
I'd say, again, coming from my dad, because he tells me a lot of smart things. And like I was talking about earlier, I think shine the light on it. And again, going back to just being upfront with people and honest, because you can work through anything if you're upfront and you just face things head on. And I think that has probably been the biggest thing, along with never give up. Those are kind of the 2 lessons that he always taught me.
And then last question, favorite things. Do you have a favorite podcast, a book you've read, a program, maybe a product, a service, even a life hack? Maybe it's a travel hack since you are clearly a traveler that you want to share. Just something that's changed your life that more people need to know about.
You know what? Right now, especially, I'm really into self-care because I've not been great about that, being an entrepreneur. And so for me, it's kind of taking time to do those things, taking time to go get a massage or a facial, getting your nails done, just like little things like that are so important just for us mentally. But again, I think we're not great about doing. That for me has been a game changer because it's just like that little time that you carve out for yourself where you can just kind of not be engaged with anybody and you can just kind of recharge. So definitely that.
Oh my gosh. I love that you gave that answer. One, because this is the week leading up to Mother's Day, right? So what perfect advice for those who are the females in our life. Or if you are a male, maybe a good gift, because Lord knows you probably haven't bought a gift yet. One, you should go buy the Tony Llama Ida Mae Home collection or a gift card to Ida Mae Home so she can pick out whatever it is that she wants. Or something related to self-care like a massage, have somebody come clean the house for a day, whatever that looks like. But 2, I literally just got done with that. So this morning, my husband, he took the kids to a branding and I had a 3-hour gap on my calendar. And typically I would just go attack the list of things that I wanted to get done because I'm a little worker bee and I want to get ahead. But instead, I saddled my horse. I loaded him in the trailer. I took him out and I went and checked a set of cows. And I bet I have not done that by myself since before our daughter was born and she's 5 years old now. Like it has literally been that long. Yes, I could have been further ahead in my to-do list or whatever accomplishments I needed to get done today. But I tell you what, I feel a hell of a lot better having done that than I did if I had a fully checked off to-do list right now. So I think we really have to think about the importance of pouring into ourselves. And again, yeah, like it does feel really good when you get everything checked off that to-do list because that rarely seems to happen, right? There's always one more thing and one more thing. So it's great to feel accomplished, but it's also really good to know that you can take time for yourself and just the importance of that. I feel like I love that you said that because again, I literally just got done doing that.
I love that. It probably felt like an exhale to you when you went out there.
It did.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Kristin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Where can people go shop online? IdaMaeHome.com.
It's IdaMaeHome.com. And then we've got an Instagram, which is Ida Mae Home. Those are the two resources.
And then obviously you can buy it on Ida Mae Home and then check your favorite boutique as well, because I know, like I'm thinking off the top of my head, I know Savannah Sevens carries. Where are some other retailers? Are there any specific that carry the brand that are also another good place to look? Maybe if somebody's shopping in person or...
Mavericks Fort Worth is a great resource. Teskey's in Weatherford's a great resource. We also sell to Cavender's. They're rolling out our boot bags. That's a great place to get a boot bag. Dillard's, we've got some things there as well. So,
oh, perfect.
And then wonderful boutiques kind of all over.
I'm glad you mentioned that because here in a couple of weeks, I will be in Fort Worth, or Arlington, I should say, for Cowgirls 30 Under 30 Leadership Summit. And I have a day that I am headed down to the stockyards to get a little shopping fix. And so I'm definitely going to have to stop by the Maverick and check out their Ida Mae Home collection. So Kristin, thank you so much. This was such a great conversation, you guys. Do us a favor, whatever your favorite piece was from today's episode, tag us, share it in your stories. We want to hear about it. Make sure that you're following Ida Mae Home on Instagram. We are so appreciative of you. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the room. And for those of you who have maybe gone through loss or hardship, you've lost your own mother, you've lost children, just know that we're thinking of you too. For many of us, Mother's Day is a celebration, but I know that it's also a really difficult time for a lot of women out there. So if that is one of you, please know that you are in our thoughts and in our hearts. So with that, you guys, we will see you back here next week. If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.